Hi, my name is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news editor of PRWeek, and I'm here with Andy Coville, the CEO of Brodeur Partners. Andy, welcome.
Thank you, Frank.
So one thing we've talked about before is relevance and how brands stay relevant in 2012 and going forward. What do you see as the key trends in that space, and what should brands do to stay ahead of the curve, so to speak?
I think, Frank, it's a really interesting issue because I think for so long we've really looked at relevance through one dimension, and that's sort of the thinking lens of relevance. And what we started, really thinking about some of our clients' challenges and certainly some of the branding challenges. And in order to create or get that creative insight that can really drive a great public relations campaign, we broadened our diagnostic model to start looking at three other key attributes, and that was, in order for something to be relevant to an individual, and that something can be a brand, it could be a political candidate, it can be a nonprofit organization. In addition to the thinking side of things, we started really exploring the values part of the equation. We started looking at the social part of it, the community, obviously not only what is driven out of the social media experience, but the communities that people belong to and gravitate towards. And finally, one of the most interesting aspects of all is the sensory side of elements of relevance. What people perceive, they experience, taste, sound, sight, just how, even body temperature. So we've spent we've surveyed this topic extensively in the last 2 years since we really began building a platform around it. And we've been able to look at the nuances between generational relevance, which is really fascinating. Right now we're about to do a new survey on that. And we've looked at how relevance changes between different market segments.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of market segments, does that change at all as far as industry? I mean, do
Yes.
fast food brands have
Yes.
more in the game here than other sort of brands, for instance?
Definitely, like for example, a telecommunications brand, relevance definitely skews much more to sort of the thinking side of the equation because it's a data-driven purchase in many instances. If you look at something like a nonprofit brand that is trying to increase donations, that is much more of a values-driven process because people identify with the brand themselves. So you're really appealing to a different sort of side of their emotions, which is how the brand, like for example the American Cancer Society, how they personally connect with that. So that's very different versus a telecommunications company, even a sporting franchise.
So how does that change the game for an agency like Brodeur? You guys have changed a lot just as an agency in the past few years. How does that change even your staffing levels or the sort of people that you employ or the skills they need, things like that?
I think it's really interesting. We spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think the staffing models are really changing and aligning differently. And I think it's much less about a hierarchical experience where you have the traditional VP down to account coordinator, where you're looking at people that are coming together almost in a hybrid with different skill sets. You have the experienced counselors, hopefully, I would put myself in that bucket, at least on the age side of things, but definitely someone that has been around in the agency experience, has that sort of consulting experience, the ability to read a situation. Then you have this incredible talent that is coming out of the communication schools, out of other jobs, journalism, really savvy on social media, really understanding how to use content in fresh new ways. And then I would say they're what I call sort of the middle managers that know how all the pieces kind of come together. So I think those three functions have a really important role in creating almost a hybrid team for each piece of business. They can learn from each other. So I think the senior people in the account, in the traditional model, learn new things from just really fresh new talent coming into the agencies, and then vice versa. So it's a good experience for everybody.
Does that mean it's less media relations, or media relations is just sort of in a different place than it was a few years ago?
Exactly. I think media relations is still critically important, but it is very, very strategic. So I think when you're framing or you're helping an assignment or a client articulate what their story is to their key audience, whether it's to Wall Street or it's to key information leaders, you have to think through what is truly unique, what is sort of the unconventional insight that we can help them develop and portray to the marketplace. But once you've done that, it's still is being able to package that, create a media story around it, being able to write about it is critical.
Mm-hmm.
So I think media relations is really important.
Interesting stuff. Again, this is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news editor at PRWeek, and this is Andy Coville. She is the CEO at Brodeur Partners. Thanks again.
Thank you.